There's a statistic that gets thrown around in trading circles like a curse. 9 out of 10 traders fail. Most people hear it, nod, and move on. But I didn't, because I was once one of those 9. 15 years ago, when I placed my first trade, I felt unstoppable. I had read the books, studied the charts, and convinced myself I had cracked the code. I remember sitting in front of my screen, charts glowing like portals to freedom. My first few trades went well. I doubled my small account in 2 weeks. My confidence grew faster than my balance. But then came the storm. The same strategy that made me money started bleeding me dry. I adjusted, I chased, I refused to quit until I finally did. I remember staring at the account statement. Balance, 0. My chest tightened, not from the money lost, but from the realization that I didn't understand the game I was playing. Here's the truth no one tells you at the beginning. Most traders don't quit because they're not smart enough or disciplined enough. They quit because they never learned to survive the mental war, the quiet, invisible one happening inside their own heads. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to tell you the real reason why 90% of traders walk away from the markets after just 1 year. Not the YouTube version filled with cliches, but the version I lived through, scar by scar. This is not a story about strategies or indicators. It's about human psychology, market manipulation, and the brutal truth that the market doesn't take your money, you hand it to it. So if you've ever wondered why your trades fail, even when your analysis is right, or why your emotions always seem one step ahead of your logic, stay with me. Because by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why most traders quit, and why you don't have to be one of them.
I still remember the smell of cheap coffee and burnt adrenaline that filled my small apartment when I started trading full-time. I was 24, newly obsessed with financial freedom, and absolutely convinced that trading was my escape from the rat race. I had quit my job in sales after watching a YouTube video titled, "Make $1,000 a day from home." It sounded like a fantasy, but at the time, I didn't care. I wanted control over my time, my money, my life. The charts became my new religion. Every candlestick felt like a sermon from the gods of Wall Street. I would wake up at 2 a.m. to catch the London session, my eyes burning from screen light, my mind whispering, just one more trade. My world shrank to numbers, charts, and the ticking clock of my MetaTrader platform. When I won, I felt like a genius. When I lost, I told myself it was just bad luck. But slowly, something darker crept in. The more I traded, the less I understood myself. I wasn't following a system. I was chasing emotion. When the market moved against me, I doubled down. When it went my way, I took profits too early. It wasn't trading, it was gambling dressed in technical analysis. I joined online communities, watched webinars, bought every course I could find. Each promised the secret. Each time, I believed. I told myself I just hadn't found my strategy yet. I thought experience alone would turn me into a winner, as if time in front of the screen guaranteed success. It didn't. After my 6th losing month, I started realizing something. Everyone around me was losing too. The same people in those chat rooms who bragged about profits one day were gone the next. Deleted accounts, vanished Telegram groups, silence. That's when I saw the pattern, not in the charts, but in people. They all started the same way: excitement, obsession, burnout, and then disappearance. The market didn't kill them. Their own expectations did. The first year in trading is not a test of skill, it's a test of survival. The market doesn't reward intelligence, it rewards emotional resilience. I just didn't know that yet. And when the crash came, my crash, it wasn't a sudden explosion. It was a slow bleed of confidence, one small mistake at a time, until there was nothing to hold on to.
The turning point came on a rainy Thursday night. I remember it vividly because I had been holding a losing position for 3 days. Euro USD long that had gone against me by nearly 150 pips. My trading journal, which had started as a disciplined record of analysis, had turned into a graveyard of excuses. I told myself the market was just hunting stops. I told myself the trend will reverse. I even told myself I just need to be patient. The truth? I couldn't accept being wrong. That night, as I watched the candles drop lower and lower, I did something every trader swears they'll never do. I moved my stop loss. Then I moved it again. Then I deleted it. Within 2 hours, my account, months of small wins and endless hours of study, was down nearly 60%. It wasn't the money that broke me. It was the realization that I had become the very kind of trader I used to mock online. Impulsive, emotional, and desperate for control in a world that gives none. I remember staring at the chart after closing my position in panic. My hands were shaking. My brain was empty. I felt physically sick, not because I lost, but because I finally understood why I lost. I wasn't trading the market. I was trading my emotions. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat there, watching the candles move like waves in a storm, each tick reminding me of my arrogance. The next day, I withdrew what was left of my account, a pitiful $417, and told myself I was done. Trading wasn't for me. I'd failed. But the thing about walking away from trading is that it doesn't really let you go. Even when I stopped, I kept checking the markets. I'd scroll through charts on my phone like an ex-lover stalking someone they couldn't move on from. The market had taken my money, but it still had my mind. Months passed. I avoided talking about it. My friends asked how trading was going, and I lied. Yeah, still at it, I'd say, forcing a smile. Inside, I felt like a fraud. And then, one evening, I stumbled across an interview with Paul Tudor Jones, a legend in the trading world. He said something that changed everything for me. The most important rule of trading is to play great defense, not great offense. That line hit me harder than any loss ever could. I had spent my entire first year trying to win big, chasing profits, doubling down, dreaming of becoming rich fast, but I never once thought about protecting what I already had. That was my fatal flaw. The market isn't designed to reward greed. It rewards discipline. It doesn't care about your dreams, your emotions, or your ambitions. It only respects risk management. So I decided to start over, but differently this time. I went back to demo trading, not to test strategies, but to test myself. I focused on one thing: emotional control. I set rules: no revenge trading, no adding to losers, no trading after 3 losses in a row. And slowly, something changed. I started to see trading for what it really is, not a game of prediction, but a game of survival. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't fast, but it was real.
Restarting wasn't easy. My confidence was shattered, and every chart I opened reminded me of my failures. But something inside me, maybe pride, maybe obsession, refused to quit completely. I told myself, if I'm going to do this again, I'll do it like a professional. The first real change I made wasn't to my strategy, it was to my mindset. I stopped thinking like a gambler and started thinking like a risk manager. I realized that every successful trader I admired, from Soros to Livermore to Jones, had one thing in common. They protected their capital like a lion guards its cubs. So I went back to the basics. I started journaling again, but this time it wasn't about entries or exits. It was about my emotions, what I felt before, during, and after every trade.
I began to notice patterns. Every time I traded out of boredom, I lost. Every time I chased a move I'd already missed, I lost. Every time I doubled down after a losing streak, I got crushed. It wasn't bad luck. It was bad discipline. Then came the breakthrough. One evening, I was watching a price chart of gold. It had just broken through a resistance level, and my instinct screamed, "Buy!" But this time, I didn't. I waited. I watched. And sure enough, within minutes, the price reversed sharply. A classic stop hunt before the real move began. That's when I discovered what professionals call smart money concepts. The idea that the market is not random, but engineered to manipulate retail traders into emotional decisions. It wasn't about predicting direction, it was about understanding intent. I started to study institutional behavior, liquidity zones, order blocks, stop runs, market structure shifts. It was like seeing the matrix for the first time. Suddenly, the chaos made sense. I realized that every fake breakout I'd fallen for wasn't an accident, it was a setup. Retail traders like me were providing liquidity for bigger players. I wasn't being unlucky, I was being used. That realization flipped a switch in my brain. Trading wasn't about fighting the market, it was about aligning with the side that moves it. And that meant patience, timing, and understanding the flow of money. From that day forward, my charts became cleaner. I removed every unnecessary indicator. The moving averages, the RSI, the MACD, all gone. Just pure price action, just structure and liquidity. It felt like starting over, but this time with clarity. I remember the first trade I took after this shift. Euro GBP, a simple short after a liquidity grab above an old high. My stop was tight, my target was conservative. The trade hit my take profit in less than an hour. The profit wasn't much, maybe $80, but it felt like winning a championship. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about control. Control over my actions. Control over my emotions. Control over my decisions. That was the day I stopped being a victim of the market and started becoming a student of it. I began to think long-term, not in days or weeks, but in years. The question changed from, how can I make money this week, to, how can I still be trading 5 years from now? And with that shift, everything, my habits, my process, my results, began to transform. The truth is, the market doesn't destroy people because it's cruel. It destroys people because it exposes them. It shows you who you really are. Impatient, greedy, fearful, or disciplined. And that's what I was finally learning to master.
Once I started understanding how the market truly works, everything that used to confuse me became obvious, painfully obvious. For years, I thought price movement was random, that the market was chaotic and unpredictable. But it wasn't. It was engineered. There's a rhythm behind every move, a logic designed to manipulate the untrained eye. Retail traders, like how I used to be, chase momentum, believe in indicators and trust what they see. Smart money, on the other hand, hunts what they know others believe. Let me break this down simply. Every major move begins with accumulation, a quiet phase where institutions build positions while the market seems to go nowhere. Traders get bored, impatient, and leave. Then comes manipulation, false breakouts, sudden wicks, emotional candles that trick traders into entering at the worst possible moment. Finally, distribution. The true move begins, and retail traders are once again on the wrong side, convinced they just missed the entry. That's not coincidence, it's design. This is why 90% of traders lose, not because they lack intelligence, but because they don't understand the game board. They play chess without seeing the opponent's pieces. And the opponent? It's not a single person or a shadowy figure behind a screen. It's a system, one that thrives on liquidity. Price doesn't move because buyers or sellers suddenly appear. It moves because liquidity is collected. When retail traders pile up stop losses above a resistance or below a support, that becomes fuel for smart money. They push price just enough to trigger those stops, collect liquidity, and then move the market in the intended direction. This concept shattered my old beliefs. I realized that every losing trade I ever had made perfect sense. I was simply liquidity. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. I started testing everything I thought I knew. Indicators? Lagging. Overbought and oversold? Meaningless without context. News? Often just the excuse for a move that was already planned. The truth was brutal, but freeing. The more I observed, the clearer it became. Trading success isn't about predicting, it's about reacting with understanding. I began focusing on market structure, liquidity pools, and smart money footprints. Instead of reacting emotionally to candles, I started asking, why would price go there? What's sitting behind that level? And here's where it gets deep. Trading is a mirror. The better you understand yourself, the better you understand the market. Because the market is a reflection of human behavior. Greed, fear, impatience, hope. The same patterns that ruin traders appear again and again because people don't change. It's why no matter how many new traders join the game, the result is the same. Most will lose. The market doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards discipline and emotional control. After 15 years, that's my biggest insight. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to be the one who doesn't panic when everyone else does. When I stopped chasing every move, when I learned to sit on my hands and wait for my setup, my equity curve began to stabilize. Small wins, smaller losses, controlled emotions. And over time, that consistency, boring as it sounds, became my edge. Trading stopped being about money. It became about process. I started to view every trade as data, not profit or loss, but feedback. If a trade lost, I didn't beat myself up. I asked, did I follow my plan? If yes, then it wasn't a bad trade, just a statistical outcome. If no, then it wasn't the market's fault, it was mine. That mindset changed everything. The truth is, trading mastery isn't about knowing more indicators or memorizing patterns. It's about knowing yourself. Because the real market isn't out there. It's inside you.
After understanding why most traders fail, I had to rebuild everything from the ground up. It wasn't enough to know the truth. I needed a system to survive it. Because knowledge doesn't make you money, execution does. So I designed a framework, not to beat the market, but to stop letting the market beat me. Here's what I learned and how you can apply it too. 1. Master risk before strategy. When I look back, every major loss I had came from one root cause: ego. I believed I was right. I wanted to prove it to the market. So I doubled down, averaged in, and watched my account vanish. Now, I follow one golden rule. Never let a single trade decide your fate. I risk 1% per trade. That's it. Not because it feels safe, but because it gives me longevity. If you risk 10% and lose 5 times, you're out. If you risk 1% and lose 5 times, you're still calm and alive to take the next opportunity. Trading isn't a sprint, it's survival. If you stay in the game long enough, the odds shift in your favor. 2. Build a process, not a prediction. Most traders focus on finding the perfect entry, but no entry saves you from inconsistency. I started building a process loop, a checklist I follow every time before I trade. What's the higher time frame structure? Where is liquidity likely sitting? What's the market trying to achieve today? Trap or trend? What's my invalidation point? If I can't answer all four clearly, I don't take the trade. This discipline feels slow, but it's liberating. You stop guessing, you start executing. Your goal isn't to be right. Your goal is to be consistent. 3. Use journaling as a weapon. Early in my career, journaling felt tedious. Now, I treat it like oxygen. After every trade, I log entry, exit, reasoning, emotions, mistakes, screenshots. Then, once a week, I review everything, not to punish myself, but to spot patterns. If I notice that I always lose when I trade after midnight, that's not bad luck, that's data. You can't fix what you don't track. And the act of writing forces your brain to slow down, to think before clicking buy or sell. 4. Emotional fitness is your edge. The best traders aren't fearless, they're emotionally fit. They feel fear, but don't act on it. They feel greed, but wait for confirmation. I started meditating every morning, not to be spiritual, but to train focus. Trading isn't about charts, it's about presence. When your heart races and your palms sweat, that's your body telling you you've lost control. If you can't regulate your emotions, no strategy in the world will save you. 5. Reframe losing. One of the hardest lessons I learned, a losing trade isn't a failure. It's feedback. The only real failure is not learning from it. The moment I stopped taking losses personally, I started growing. I stopped trying to get my money back. I started focusing on process quality. Now, when I lose, I smile, because it means I'm following the plan, and that's what matters. 6. Play the long game. Most traders quit after 12 months because they expect to make it by then. But think about it. Would you expect to become a surgeon, pilot, or pro athlete in 1 year? Trading mastery takes time. Thousands of hours of screen time. Hundreds of mistakes. If you stay long enough to outlast your own emotions, you'll outlast 90% of traders. Trading is a mirror. The market exposes every weakness you try to hide. Impatience, greed, fear, ego. But if you use it as a tool to grow, it becomes your greatest teacher. Because in the end, trading isn't about charts or money. It's about self-mastery. Once you master yourself, profits follow naturally.
There comes a point in every trader's life when something shifts. Not in the market, but inside. For me, that turning point came one quiet night, staring at a half-empty coffee cup and a trading account that looked like a graveyard of bad decisions. I realized I'd spent years chasing setups, signals, indicators, everything outside myself. But the real battlefield was internal. That night, I made a simple promise. I will stop trying to predict the market. I will start learning to understand it. 1. From reaction to observation. Most traders live in reaction. They chase price, FOMO into spikes, panic on dips. The market moves, they move.
But successful traders observe first. They wait, watch liquidity form, sense where emotional money is trapped. I began to treat every chart like a conversation. The market was speaking. I had just never learned to listen. I stopped asking, where should I enter? Instead, I asked, what is the market trying to do right now? That one shift changed everything. When you stop reacting, you start seeing patterns others miss. And when you see the game behind the candles, the stop hunts, the manipulation, you stop being the prey. 2. From outcome obsession to process obsession. Before, every trade was a test of my worth. A win meant I was smart. A loss meant I was a failure. But that mindset is poison. Now, my metric of success isn't profit. It's execution. Did I follow my plan? Did I manage risk? Did I stay patient? If yes, then even a losing trade is a victory, because consistency compounds faster than luck. That's when I started seeing real progress. Not explosive, not sexy, but sustainable. 3. From control to acceptance. Every trader wants control of the market, of outcomes, of timing. But control is an illusion. The market doesn't owe you anything. No setup is guaranteed. No strategy wins forever. When I finally accepted that, I stopped forcing trades. I stopped staring at charts for hours waiting for a signal. Instead, I built a life around trading, not inside it. I exercised, read, spent time with family, and treated trading as just one expression of discipline. Ironically, when I stopped obsessing, my performance improved. The market rewards emotional neutrality, and acceptance is the foundation of that neutrality. 4. From scarcity to abundance. Before, I feared missing trades, as if every setup was my last chance. Now I know opportunities never stop coming. Every day liquidity forms, every day manipulation resets. The market is infinite. My patience just needs to match it. When you believe in abundance, FOMO disappears. You stop chasing the move. You wait for the move to come to you. That's when you start trading like the institutions. Calm, deliberate, ruthless. 5. From trader to observer of human nature. Here's what I realized after 15 years. Trading is just human psychology visualized. Fear, greed, hope, despair, you can see them all on a chart. Each candle tells a story of someone losing control. Once I understood that, I stopped fighting the market. Because the market is us. And to master it, you must first master human behavior, starting with your own. That night, I didn't just become a better trader. I became a different person. The charts didn't change. My indicators didn't change. I did. And that changed everything.
If I could go back and talk to my younger self, that stubborn, overconfident version of me staring at charts at 2 a.m., I wouldn't give him a strategy. I'd give him perspective. Because time, not talent, is the true teacher in trading. It humbles you. It strips you of ego. It teaches patience the hard way, through loss, through waiting, through watching opportunities slip by while you learn restraint. Number 1, the lesson of patience. Early on, I believed success was about doing more. More trades, more indicators, more analysis, more risk. But the truth? Great traders do less. Patience isn't about waiting for setups. It's about waiting for yourself to be ready to act without emotion. The irony is that in trading, the less you do, the more you earn. If what you do is done with clarity and timing. Now, I can go days without placing a trade.
And when I do, it's not because I want to trade. It's because the market finally aligns with my plan. That's the kind of discipline only time can build. Number 2, the lesson of humility. The market will break your pride faster than anything else. It doesn't care if you've read every book, watched every webinar, or mastered every indicator. At some point, it will hand you a loss so sharp that your confidence shatters. And in that silence, after the chaos, after the disbelief, you learn humility. You learn that your job isn't to beat the market. It's to respect it, to accept that you will never know everything, to be grateful for survival, not obsessed with domination. Humility isn't weakness, it's armor. It keeps you grounded when everyone else is euphoric and calm when everyone else is panicking. Number 3, the lesson of surrender. This one took me the longest to learn. I used to think surrender meant giving up, quitting when things got hard. But in trading, surrender means letting go of the illusion of control. It's saying, I accept uncertainty. I accept randomness. I accept that I don't control outcomes, only my reactions. Once I surrendered, everything got lighter. I stopped fighting the charts. I stopped fighting myself. I just followed the flow, not blindly, but with awareness. And strangely, that's when I started winning consistently. Number 4, the lesson of emotional mastery. No backtest, no strategy, no course can give you this one. You can only earn it through pain. Every blown account, every revenge trade, every sleepless night, they all carve discipline into you. Pain refines you. It burns away arrogance, impulsivity, and delusion. And what's left, if you're patient enough to endure, is clarity. Now, when I take a loss, I don't get angry. I get curious. What did the market show me this time that I didn't see before? Each loss becomes tuition, not punishment. Number 5, the lesson of detachment. The market has a way of reflecting your identity back at you. If you tie your self-worth to your trades, it will destroy you. That's why detachment is freedom. You must learn to trade without being your trades, to lose without feeling like a loser, to win without feeling invincible. Trading is not about conquering the market. It's about conquering your mind over and over every single day. 15 years later, I look back and realize something profound. Every painful loss was a lesson I couldn't have learned any other way. The pain I once hated became the foundation of my wisdom. The market doesn't just test your strategy, it tests your soul. And only those who listen to its lessons survive long enough to thrive.
For most of my early trading years, I was chasing freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. But somewhere along the way, I realized I'd been chasing the wrong thing. Because freedom doesn't come from having money. It comes from knowing yourself. Number 1, trading became my mirror. At some point, I stopped seeing trading as a way to get rich. I started seeing it as a mirror, one that reflects your deepest fears, insecurities, and patterns. When I was impatient, the market punished me. When I was greedy, it humbled me. When I was afraid, it exposed me. Every emotional flaw I had showed up in my trades. And until I faced those flaws, I kept repeating the same mistakes, no matter what system I used. That's when I understood. Trading isn't about learning charts. It's about learning yourself through charts. Number 2, purpose beyond profit. Once I rebuilt my discipline, I stopped asking, how much can I make this week? Instead, I asked, how well can I execute my process? The more I focused on process, the more profit followed, ironically, with less effort and stress. That's when I found a deeper purpose in trading. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about mastery, about becoming the kind of person who could stay calm in chaos, objective in fear, patient in uncertainty. Because if you can master your mind in the market, you can master it anywhere in life. Number 3, giving back to the game. Eventually, I started mentoring newer traders, not to show off, but because I saw myself in their struggle. Every time a trader messaged me saying I blew my account again, I remembered the exact pain behind those words. I told them the truth no one told me at the beginning. You don't lose money because you're bad. You lose money because you're becoming good. Trading doesn't reward speed, it rewards endurance. And endurance is built only through repetition and reflection. Seeing others grow reignited my passion, because every time I helped someone rise from the same pit I once fell into, I felt a part of my own journey come full circle. Number 4, redefining success. Today, I measure success differently. It's not the size of my profits, it's the size of my peace. If I can end the day calm, detached, and consistent, that's victory. If I can handle a loss without anger, that's mastery. If I can help one trader avoid a mistake that cost me years, that's legacy. Trading gave me the wealth I dreamed of, yes, but more importantly, it gave me the person I was meant to become. Because every chart, every trade, every mistake was just a step toward understanding a truth I wish every trader knew. The goal isn't to beat the market. The goal is to evolve with it.
I've spent 15 years watching traders rise, fall, disappear, and reappear. And if there's one truth I've learned, one that separates the survivors from the casualties, it's this. You don't need to master the market. You need to master yourself first. The real enemy is within. Most traders believe the market is their opponent. They think the battle is against algorithms, institutions, or smart money. But that's not true. The market doesn't know your name. It doesn't care if you win or lose. The only enemy that can destroy you is the one behind your keyboard. Impatience, fear, greed, ego. I've met traders who could analyze markets perfectly and still fail because they couldn't control their impulses. And I've met average analysts who quietly built fortunes because they had the discipline to do nothing when nothing needed to be done. In the end, trading isn't a game of intelligence. It's a game of character. 2. The cycle of mastery. Mastery doesn't happen once. It's a cycle, a constant return to humility. Every few years, I reinvent my strategy. Not because the market forces me to, but because I evolve. The tools change. The structure changes. The emotions resurface. That's how I know I'm still growing. The best traders I know, the ones who survive decades, are the ones who treat every win with gratitude and every loss with curiosity. They never stop being students of the game. When you understand that, you stop chasing certainty. You start dancing with probability. 3. Building a legacy that outlives you. If you're still here after the first year, still fighting, still learning, you're already ahead of 90% of traders who quit. But if you want to go beyond survival, you must think about legacy. Legacy isn't about fame or followers. It's about impact. It's about the trader who watches your journey and decides not to quit today. It's about the next generation learning from your mistakes instead of repeating them. It's about building a voice in the community that says, you can trade with integrity. You can trade with patience. You can trade without losing your soul. 4.
Master yourself, master the markets. When I look back now, all the numbers fade. The wins, the losses, the drawdowns, they're just data points. What stays are the lessons. The humility after a crash. The discipline built from routines. The quiet confidence that comes from knowing no matter what happens, I can rebuild. That's mastery. The market is a reflection of life itself, chaotic, unpredictable, and brutally honest. And if you can stay centered in that chaos, you'll find a kind of peace no money can buy. Because in the end, trading is not about predicting the future. It's about preparing yourself for whatever future comes. So to every trader out there, still staring at charts, still questioning if this game is worth it, it is. Not because it guarantees riches, but because it will forge a version of you that nothing else can. When you master yourself, you've already mastered the markets.